Listen, everybody keeps saying, Nick, if the bank never linked us real money, how did the seller still get paid for the house or the car? Good. I want you asking that because once you understand this part, you would never look at debt, banks, and what you owe the same again. I'm going to slow walk you through the process of what is happening behind the scenes in a home purchase, a car purchase, credit, the Federal Reserve, as if you're in the room with me. So make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you stick around all the way to the end, because we're going to be diving into something that nobody is talking about, really breaking down and making sense of it. Okay? This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. Remember to do your due diligence. Remember to review the information on your own. You can look this stuff up by yourself. Okay? Use this as inspo. Number 2, if you're brand new, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tap into the channel. I'm going to talk to you as if we're on FaceTime. Let's dive into another one. So let's first talk about the only thing that you actually give them. Okay? When you took out a mortgage or when you take out a car loan, you didn't start by getting the money from the bank. And that's the thing. And this is why we challenge contracts. This is why we are sending conditional acceptances, simply because if it's a consumer credit transaction or if someone is loaning you money, they should be giving you cash in hand. That's number 1. But what happens is you start by signing a promissory note for, let's just say, $300,000. That note is not just paperwork. That note is an asset. It's a value. It's negotiable and it can be sold. It can be pledged. It can be treated like money. When you look at UCC 3-104, it says a negotiable instrument is a financial instrument to the bank. The bank then can use that promise to make money. But we already knew this. So before the bank gives anybody $1, you already gave them the value, which is why we are challenging, or why we have the ability to challenge debt, why we have the ability to challenge contracts in regards to consumer credit transactions. Your signature created the thing that they are about to use against you. You're thinking you're the borrower, but in reality, you walked in as the liquidity. So let me go ahead and show you this diagram. I have a couple of diagrams put in place to kind of drive the point. All right, give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and so let's just start with this diagram right here. Okay. Now I try my best to make this diagram good, you know. So we're going to move this over a little bit, see if we can zoom. Can we zoom in? I have a couple of diagrams. How do I zoom this thing in, man? All right, so it finally zoomed in. I figured it out. Let me go ahead and make this smaller. As y'all see, raw and uncut. All right, so let's just talk about what's actually happening. This is you, and I have a couple of diagrams that we're going to look at. But you as the borrower, okay, you sign a promissory note, and that promissory note, pretty much your signature is what's backing this $300,000, okay? This right here affords you the ability to be able to get a vehicle, to be able to get a home, okay? Because the value comes from you. And the question is, why does it come from you? I mean, simply because you're the beneficiary of an estate that they created because they own you, okay? They took ownership over you. When you look at the SKV Act, it says that a person can take an estate on a person that is deemed as dead. And only time a person can take back that is if they claim it and say they're not dead. So because of that, they were able to create this credit system because of House Joint Resolution 192, modern money mechanics, and things of that nature. But in order for banks to actually get money, they need borrowers to sign promissory notes. Simply because if I go to 12 USC 1431, it says that each federal home loan bank shall have the power, subject to the rules and regulations prescribed by the director, to borrow and give securities therefore and to pay interest thereon, to issue debentures, bonds, and other obligations upon such terms and conditions. So the banks, number one, they don't loan. Number one, they don't have money per se. They only can borrow and give securities. So it takes two people for banks to be able to make money. It takes us for them to make money. We are the ones who actually complete obligations. Okay. So if I go back to this, right, the commercial bank This is typically what happens. All right. You got the diagram from the commercial bank to the Federal Reserve Bank. They deposit the note as an asset. That asset goes into their bank ledger, which is their books. They then create a matching liability because they created they was able to put this in as an asset before they gave you the money. And then they created a matching credit liability, which is not even like the value or the asset, if that makes sense. They created a credit, and that's what they gave the seller. Because this system, one may think that, money is real. And it's kind of like, before you kind of just get a obsessive, money isn't real, and think, why are we even obsessing about this? You have to, not only do you have to understand that this is an illusion, but you also have to accept the reality of things, okay? Because you can say that pain is an illusion, but you'll still feel it. You know what I mean? You can tell yourself that all you want, but you still feel it, if that makes sense. So both can be true. All right. So they're creating a credit, just like when you think of store credit. It's not really like real money, store credit. And that's when they give the seller, because that's all one needs to be able to continue to exchange value. All right. So let's just break down a trick. The bank takes that $300,000 note that you signed. They record it on their books as an asset. You promise to pay because their property is on paper. Then this is the part that nobody tells you. They create a brand new loan balance in your name for the same amount. An asset on their side, a liability on your side. They literally mirror your signature back to you and call it a loan. So when you see, congrats, you've been approved for $300,000, what actually happened is they monetized their promise, then handed you the credit that came from you. They are not receiving money. They are receiving a balance they created because you signed it. Okay? I want to break this down a little bit more. Okay? I have this other image. This note, this promissory note, $300,000 goes to the bank. The bank deposits it as an asset, creates a $300,000 credit. That $300,000 credit gets entered in the bank ledger. That's also, the accounting is also going to the seller as well. They also have an internal banking system that's going on, okay? Another question that one may ask is say, okay, well, what is this connection right here? Okay, let me break that down for you. That arrow between the house, which is the asset, and the Federal Reserve Bank visually represents a systemic tie between the real world collateral, the property, and the monetary system that governs reserves and credit issuance. Here's what's happening conceptually and legally. All right. The home, the note became the underlying asset. When you sign the promissory note, that note references the home as collateral. It gives the commercial bank the right to claim the property if you default, meaning the house backs the loan. So in accounting terms, the promissory note equals the financial asset, which is the paper value, and the home is the collateral, which is the tangible asset that secures that value. So in essence, what kind of gives banks power is the fact that they include a home, or they make it seem like they gave you a home for this. That the commercial bank uses the note to create credit. The bank doesn't directly hand your note to the Federal Reserve. It creates credit internally. Then that credit enters circulation through a Fed clearing and reserve system. But the home's collateral value anchors that credit, that created credit inside the system indirectly, linking it to the Federal Reserve banking structure. The Federal Reserve role, the Fed does not own your house. So one may think because the Fed is releasing the credit that they have an ownership over the house, or that they directly hold the note. However, the credit is created against your note, which is backed by your house. This expands the bank's balance sheet and influences the reserve requirements and liquidity at the Fed level. So think of it like this. Your home equals the real world anchor of the value. So that's when you think of the real world aspect of things outside of contracts. This is the anchor of the value conceptually. Your note is the true financial instrument monetizing that value, because you can't sell a home. I mean, you could pay cash, but cash is also this here, you know? So when you think of monopoly, imagine if you could use monopoly dollars to get real world things. Or when the metaverse comes around and people are able to buy digital real estate, there is something of real world value that backs that. Whether it's the money, whether that digital value is actually going to become something valuable in the future, but something is going to have some real anchor to it. Okay, so this is why they have to give you a house, if that makes sense. But your note is what monetizes. This is what's actually valuable, the notes. Okay, now the bank creates the credit, but it cannot create the credit without this promissory note. Okay, and it cannot create credit without the link, without them taking your promissory note to the Federal Reserve and balancing their books. Now, the Federal Reserve is the clearinghouse and the regulator of created credit. Okay, so here's another thing I want to cover. Okay, when you go to 12 U.S.C. 1813, okay, it breaks down the definition of deposit. Deposit means the unpaid balance of money or its equivalent received or held by the bank or savings association. So it can mean one or two things. It can either be money received or money that is unpaid. So when they say they deposited money in your account, it was really just a book entry, okay? Essentially saying that, hey, we owe you, okay? Now, obviously, if you go to 12 USC, Chapter 16, Federal Deposits, you can go back to Title 12, okay? And you'll be able to find it here, Chapter 16, all right? This is the U.S. code. Now, I also decided to put this in Google. 12 U.S.C. 1813 defines deposits as a book entry credit, and this is what their AI said. 12 U.S.C. does not define deposit as a book entry credit. Rather, it offers a broad definition of deposit, which includes a unpaid balance of money or its equivalent, which a bank or savings association gives credit to an account. Okay, so didn't want to go to shopping. So I bring this up simply because one thinks that the bank is actually like giving money, but it's easy to hide the fact that you're not actually giving money. It's very easy. You know, when they make you think that that's the reality of what's actually happening, they can make you believe that they're giving you like real tangible assets by saying, hey, we deposited money. If you don't know the definitions, then you can easily be manipulated. So here's another diagram I wanted to pull up because I had a question like, okay, like what is actually happening between the Federal Reserve and the bank? Okay, so zoom this out a little bit. So the borrower signs that $300,000 promissory note. That $300,000 promissory note goes to the commercial bank. The commercial bank reserves the settlement. It's like an internal banking settlement that is happening. All right. The Federal Reserve clears the balances. This is what's happening. And then they deposit the note as an asset. This is obviously what we just covered. They deposit a note as an asset that is, deposited is just the unpaid balance of money or the equivalent. So you deposit it and then they create a matching liability, which is credit. That credit goes to the seller, which is the car or the bank or whatever the case may be. The person that is selling the property. Okay, it's a game, and you can get upset at this arrangement and say, well, this is so stupid. It does seem stupid. Like, how is this even like going on right now? But what can you do other than adapt? I think the highest form of maturity, the highest form of intelligence is being able to adapt. Okay, not wag your finger at it and say, oh, this sucks, but to adapt to your situation, adapt to the cards that you are dealt. So let me break this down too, just to expand on that external connection between the commercial bank and the Federal Reserve Bank. When a transaction like a home purchase happens, there are two financial layers at play. The commercial bank's internal ledger, where the credit is created, okay? And then the interbank settlement layer managed through the Federal Reserve, known as the clearinghouse. Now, let's break down what a clearinghouse is. A clearinghouse is a centralized system that ensures the bank's books balance after transactions. So it's not like they really need money or whatever the case may be. So imagine this. You bank at Chase. The seller banks at Wells Fargo. So this is Wells Fargo. This is your bank. Okay. Your loan gets funded. Your loans funded get credited to the seller's account, but that's a completely different bank. Those two banks must now reconcile who owes what to whom. Instead of sending trucks of cash back and forth, they clear the balances electronically through the Federal Reserve, which acts as a clearinghouse, the neutral referee that settles all interbank payments. The Fed basically says, Chase, you owe Wells Fargo $300,000 from this transaction. We'll debit your reserve account and credit theirs. That is clearing. The Federal Reserve is pretty much going to pay their bills for them as long as they continue to do their job. So then the other question is, why do you have to pay bills? Why do you always have to have, your promise is the value, okay? Now, here's what interbank settlement actually means. Every major commercial bank keeps a reserve account with the Federal Reserve. These accounts hold digital reserves that backs the bank's payment systems. Think of it as the bank's money for banks, okay? This is very different from the dollar, okay? This is not what the banks truly get value from, okay? When a bank pays the seller, the buyer's bank, say Chase, reduces its own customer's liability and tells the Fed we owe Wells Fargo's $300,000. The Fed adjusts its internal ledger, debits Chase reserve accounts, and credits Wells Fargo's reserve account. No physical dollars move. That is the point. Just digital bookkeeping entries between banks and reserve accounts. It's called the interbank settlement. Now, here's the flow in the context of your mortgage. Here's how it plays out with your $300,000 promissory note. You signed the note. The commercial bank records it as an asset. The seller is paid via a wire transfer to their account at another bank. The two banks must settle through the Federal Reserve's clearing system. The Fed debits and credits the reserve accounts accordingly. Everything balances out without a single dollar of pre-existing money changing or even exchanging hands. So here's why this matters. The clearinghouse, the Federal Reserve, is not lending anything. It's just settling interbank obligations, making sure every participant's ledger matches at the end of the day. The money that pays the seller originated from the signature, from your signature, okay? Not the Fed's vault. The only reason this entire system happens is simply because you signed a $300,000 promissory note. Simply because you decided to purchase a car, finance it. Simply because you are the value. The reserves at the Fed are bank-to-bank credits, not the same as the dollars in your checking account. It's very different. So what looks like a normal transaction is really an internal balancing act between institutions. You think that money is being exchanged, your money is valuable. And again, remember, illusion and reality can coexist, okay? It can coexist. You are the connection to all of this happening because this doesn't happen without you is the point. Do you see this complex diagram that AI beautifully put together? And you don't think after all of this, they're not going to try to fight back. You get what I'm saying? This is why you can challenge anything on your credit report, because you can challenge whether or not the bank actually risked anything, whether or not you actually owe them, whether or not they didn't deposit your note as an asset and create a matching liability of credit and not actually give you money. They should be looking at you as a business partner. As a matter of fact, they are indebted to you, but they flip the script and make you think that you are indebted to them. So the commercial bank creates the credit. The Federal Reserve clears the movement between the banks. So when credit gets exchanged between each bank, because if you think about it, credit is only in banks. It's not like we can create our own. I mean, we can, but you have to be a financial institution in order to borrow and give securities. Okay? So unless you're a financial institution or a federal home loan bank, you cannot borrow and give securities. Okay? Here's the reality. Neither one lent you money. That's the question that one asks. Okay? Nicholas, you never say that, or you always say that they never lent money. It's because it's all digital. You just have to figure out how to play this digital game. And then one may say, okay, well, how do I really make something of it? Obviously, you understand this aspect and you position yourself to be able to buy tangible assets that have true anchor to it, real world assets. Okay? All they did was just move your value through a digital clearing system. Okay? Obviously, if you've gotten this far, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think so far. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This is actually going to be, I'm going to put a worksheet in my school community, and I'm going to put this diagram in the school community too. So if you want to be able to get access to this, tap into the school community. Okay? So let's just go ahead and just and break this stuff down. This is where people get stuck. At closing, yeah, the seller walks away paid. They get a wire, a check, whatever. So you're like, bro, somebody paid them. That had to be the bank's money. Nope. Here's what actually happened. The credit the bank created off of your note gets pushed through their system and sent to the seller's bank. On the back end, the banks settle between each other using accounts at the Federal Reserve. It's bookkeeping. It's clearing. It's numbers moving between ledgers. It's a game. It's a video game, a legit video game. It looks like money, but it's credit the bank created against your signature, then cleared through the Fed to make it spendable to the seller. So yes, the seller was satisfied, but the source of that value, bring it back, is you. You are the value. This was not the bank's savings. This was not the bank's savings. This was not the banker's wallet. This was not your grandma's vault. This was not no piggy bank. You understand what I'm trying to say? You funded the purchase and then got put in debt for it. Do you understand how nasty that is? Do you understand why we learn the things that we learn? Do you understand why people are obsessing about overcoming the system? Don't look at this and say, well, we shouldn't be paying. I'm just showing you how complex this is, why you should not take the information lightly. It's not like you have to really obsess over this right here, but it's to understand what is going on so that you're not emotional about it. You get what I'm saying? My bad. I feel like I be hopping in y'all ass sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'm just a coach at heart. I'm a mentor at heart. I truly want people to overcome their struggles, overcome their financial problems, overcome the fear, overcome the doubt. That's what I truly want. Sometimes I may want it a little bit more than the next person. And that's why I do show a little bit of emotion, because I genuinely want you to win. I'm talking to you. Yes, I'm looking you directly in your eye. I want you to win. Okay? So after closing, this is what typically happens. Now that the seller is happy and gone, guess who's left holding the bill? You. Except, let's look at the psychology of it. They make you believe that they gave you $300K. They make you believe that you owe them back. And then they charge you interest for 30 years on money that literally came from your signature in the first place. That's why I say they didn't lend you money in the first place. They leveraged you and then rented it back to you. You're paying interest on yourself, my baby. Now you see why I talk about consumer law, debt discharge, status of a creditor, UCC, and all of that. Because if you walk around thinking I'm a debtor, I'm lucky they even gave me a chance, guess what? You'll stay a slave to this system that you are actually powering. But if you understand, no, I'm the source of the credit, I'm the asset, I'm the value, that conversation changes. You stop panicking. You start asking, show me the original accounting. Show me the consideration. Show me where you actually loaned me lawful money. Now we're not begging. Now we are negotiating like true business professionals. It's just business at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Conduct business accordingly. Govern yourself accordingly. My heart. So that's the shift that I'm trying to give you. Don't look at the governments or the banks as these like massive entities that you cannot be, or you cannot be on equal footing with. Now, don't get me wrong. They're in a business model that's very different than yours. And I'm not saying that you're going to, get as big as the bank. I would hope so. Right? But treat them as equals. Negotiate with them. Understand that you are the value. When you know that you're the value, you come with a different angle. Okay? So yeah, the seller did get paid, but the seller got paid with credit that started with you. The bank was just the middleman that turned your promise into numbers and ran it through the Fed to make it look official. They call it a loan. I call that a costume. I call that money laundering, my baby. If you're in my community, I drop the full breakdown, simply kind of like a worksheet so you can be able to review this. I'm gonna drop these diagrams in the chat. And again, we're gonna continue to expose the system. This is a long video, but we're gonna continue to expose the system. It's a couple ways that you can get closer to financial freedom. Understand who you are and the system that you're living in. Be able to take care of your reactions. Be able to question things that don't seem right and be able to adapt. The highest form of maturity is accountability. So if there's something that you feel like you should be doing, whether it is, learning this stuff, fixing my credit, utilizing the value that I have, positioning myself, building a brand, whatever the case may be, do it. Because guess what? It takes what it takes. Thank y'all for watching the video. Tap into the school community. The link is in the description. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that link is in the description. I love y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see y'all in the next one. This video is sponsored by the Fund Yourself Academy. My step-by-step system designed to help you fix your credit, get funding, and build real financial freedom from scratch. If you're tired of feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just ready to stop living paycheck to paycheck, this is where it changes. Inside the Academy, I break down everything from consumer law secrets that they don't teach in school to how to remove negative items and boost your score, get access to business funding, and start building multiple income streams online. Whether you're just starting out or ready to level up your game and get the bag, this is your playbook. We've got tools, templates, dispute letters, mentorship calls, private community access, and an exact roadmap I use to leave my 9-to-5 and create time freedom. But only for a limited time, you can get access to the Fund Yourself Academy on a free trial basis for the next 7 days. And then after that, you pay less than $1 a day at $27 a month, if you like it. No fluff, just facts and just freedom. Go to the fundyourselfacademy.com or hit the link in the description to join now, because nobody's coming to save you, but you can fund yourself.